Good morning. I was rocking out to that music, sound like The Weekend or something.
That's our
I was like, "That's
boy.
that's a beat." That's right.
How are you doing today, Tammy?
I am great. We had a little thunderstorm this morning, so I do believe spring is finally here. It's like 30 degrees 2 days ago, and now it's in the 50s. This weather has just been nuts. So, but I'm doing great today. I'm doing good. How about you?
Good, good. I'm just scrambling to change my chair. So, like, I bought this new fancy chair and it's so uncomfortable. And I want my old beat up chair, but it squeaks because it's so fucking old. So, I have to like swap it out for crypto and coffee because otherwise, you guys are going to hear me like squeaking the whole time I'm sitting down. But
That is so funny. You know what? I got him a new office chair or a new chair for his desk. And it's so funny because he preferred, like, he wanted that old one. And that thing looks so ratty. He's got this super, like, dope office, and you've got this ratty ass chair in there. And I'm like,
You got to
no.
break it
But
in.
he said the same
It's
thing.
like a
It,
good leather shoe. Like,
yeah,
at first, it hurts, right? The first few days, like, man, will I get this new shoe? But if it's a good one,
yeah.
after a while, it kind of fits you. Hopefully, that's what it is.
it feels
It,
like I'm sitting on a block of cement right now.
You'll break it in. Seriously, like I thought Dave threw the one away. I thought it like went out in the trash. Oh no. We have like a separate like an additional like man cave garage on our property. And I went out there and he's got it out there. I'm like, I thought you threw this stupid thing away, but no, he's got it out there now. I'm like, you're killing me with this damn chair. But I get it. If it's comfy. Did you get a gaming chair, Jess?
I
Or
did
like a
not. No,
fancy?
it was one that I thought was cute and would fit with my office and RIP. Yeah. But what's up, Dow? I see Dow and Flu are also up here.
Yeah, doing great. Just got back from a trip. I was in LA to see some friends, and I caught something, so my voice sounds a little bit different. I just got a flu, nothing bad, but yeah, interesting week. Is there one week in crypto where we don't have some crazy thing happening? Like I can't remember the last time there was a week where it was more or less just business as normal.
Never.
Flu, what's going on?
To answer your question, Doc Chemist, no, there's not a week like that, bro. That's just asking too much, honestly. Let's not even try for that. Also, what's going on is that like I have a comfortable chair in my office, just personally. I don't go for aesthetics first. That's really shallow. Um, I don't know if you know that, but you should probably just you know, grow up a little bit and just pick comfort over aesthetics. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Flu, I picked aesthetics. I've got a very cool, like, tufted gray velvet chair in my office. So just saying. I went for
It's okay.
aesthetics. I need to mature a little bit, I guess. But
It's
hey,
okay. It's
I'll
okay.
do better next time. I'll do better
It,
next time.
it's all right. I lied. I have a cyberpunk chair in my office because it's nice and pretty and has graphics.
But yeah, aside from the chair talk, Flu, what kind of coffee do you drink?
I'm drinking a YooHoo.
Ew.
What?
That,
Oh, Flu.
bruh.
Okay, so moving on from that thought, and no, just to kick things off, thanks everybody for coming. Yeah, and like Dow was saying, another crazy week in crypto and NFTs, and I'm happy that you guys are all here to, to let out your frustrations, your wins, and all that fun stuff. But before we get started on just our weekly stuff, we do have a longtime friend, Final Fantasy, aka Flu, founder of Granary Finance, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that. So yeah, it's good to have you here. Long time, and I can't believe this hasn't happened.
I know. I've actually never been on Crypto and Coffee. Um, I'm so sorry for that. And I've asked you. I've been like, why have I never been on Crypto and Coffee? And you pointed out, you're like, you never asked to be on Crypto and Coffee. I was like, yeah, that's It's actually a really good point. That's actually really, really good point. And for everyone in the audience, like I run these tiny spaces. I sometimes have like a few people there, but like Jess is always there, right? Jess is always there. Jess always supports. I'm never at fucking Crypto and Coffee because I never wake up.
Facts. What the fuck? Like I'm always falling asleep in your spaces, but I do know we have like a time difference. You're a DJ at night. I'm like a coffee morning person. So
Absolutely.
That's that's why I don't come up to speak, Flu. Now that you've come to Crypto and Coffee, I will come up and speak in your spaces. You're
Oh, that
welcome.
makes so much sense, Tammy. This is totally worth it just for that. I don't even care about the grain LGE. It's all about Tammy coming up in my spaces.
I'm dead.
That's a big win, Flu. Good job.
Thanks, bro.
oh, welcome to Nico and Bebas. Bebas, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Bieber, kind of like Justin Bieber, but with an S.
But yeah, let's go ahead and kick it off. Before we do, little disclaimer, nothing said here is financial advice. We are not financial advisors. This is strictly for educational and sometimes entertainment purposes. And also make sure to check out my pinned tweet. Shout out to my partners at Binance US. No trading fees on ETH and BTC. You can check out my pinned tweet for more information. Yeah, so disclaimers out of the way. Let's get to it. So, Flu, what is Granary? I mean, before we get into that, maybe tell the audience a little bit about yourself. I mean, you've obviously been in the DeFi space for a while. So how did you get here?
So I started in crypto about 2013, mining like Bitcoin, Litecoin, and I'd heard about it since before then. I'd read the white paper before then, but I was like, that sounds like bullshit. Sounds like it's not gonna work. But I fell in love with the idea of having like an open ledger that no one can modify, and that I kind of like thought about it in terms of a way that the government and banks and other people could like not lie about what they were doing, and been really really obsessed with that idea ever since. And I went full time professional crypto in like 2019, but not like successfully so. And then it really popped off in 2021 with DeFi Kingdoms, and I was very early to join that team. It's like day one sort of stuff. And then I started doing my own projects and other people's projects, and I worked for Harmony, and I worked for my other own project, my projects. But then I've also worked for a couple dozen other projects as a contractor, and so technically, as I've been informed by Beavis's lawyer, I'm no longer the founder of Granary Finance. I used to be considered the founder of Granary Finance, but now, because of the legal structure, I am a simple contractor for Granary Foundation, which is operated as a nonprofit, and I do not hold any legal culpability for Granary. So that's that's did I win the thing, Beavis? Is that correct?
No, I mean you founded Granary Finance.
I'm legally culpable for everything that Granary Finance ever does
Everything
or
that happens, I've
says.
actually when users log on to the site, they're sent your phone number as a push notification to their desktop, and your picture as
FYI,
well.
this space is recorded, just in case like you guys don't know where that.
Yeah, and one more thing about the recording. When you guys are not speaking, just mute your mic because we are getting some backdrops, just so we could get a good recording for everybody who wants to play it back. But
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, sorry
keep
about
going,
that.
Blue. Anything else you wanted to keep going with that?
No, no, I mean, like, it's just all about, kind of like separating ourselves from the banks and from the different organizations that seek to own every aspect of our lives, and really separating it out into self custody, not only just self custody, but also community ownership. And so that's what we've been trying to do with Grainer. And we finally reached a point after a year of being in operation successfully, with no sort of negative events, that we've finally started the liquidity generation event that moves everything over into community ownership, and we're going to start those processes. It's going to take a while to do so, but we do want Granary Finance to be the first truly community owned lending platform.
That's awesome. And before we get into the details of that, of Granary, like obviously you're a DeFi degen, also NFT degen. You always have a good PFP. And I never listen to you when you tell me about things that you get, and they always go up. And then when I buy it, inverse. But regardless, you're a DeFi degen, right? What issues did you see in the DeFi space that maybe you were going to try to solve with Granary?
So I looked at the existing Aave forks, the Aave forks that were present at the time, and I'm not going to name any names, but they didn't seem to have any morals. They printed everything to the core teams. They did insider stuff. They had insanely aggressive tokenomics, which, if you're familiar with any of the things that I mentioned earlier, I am not a fan of continuing down the path of insanely aggressive tokenomics. And I wanted to do something that actually had morals and like it took care of people as a first priority, as opposed to taking care of my own pocketbook as a first priority. So that's and especially at the time, because I had been paid well for doing the things that I was doing, and I was like, well, man, I can afford to chill for a little bit. Then Luna happened, and I was like, man, I could have been a little bit more aggressive with the monetization. I could have done a little bit more on that, but I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it, and I'm happy with the ethos in which it's been launched. Hey, there you go, Beavis ethos. But as far as the DeFi and the reasons for it, I would actually defer to Beavis on that one, because he's kind of a more technically and financially minded person, rather than myself. I'm more deeply into gamification, user interface, and user experience, and just overall. I just never stop working. I don't actually think about the things that I do. I'm all like head empty, no thoughts. He's all thoughts, and his head is full. I don't know of what, but his head is full.
Well, thank you, Flu. I'm making like my second Americano right now, so sorry for being so quiet. Every morning I make coffee for me and my fiance, and now I'm talking about it, which is neat. Yeah, so we liked Granary, so we joined kind of the grain train in, what was it, like very late 2021 Flu, where they just needed help building, and our team called the Byte Masons. We love building DeFi software, and we saw it as a really cool chance to kind of build on a DeFi lending platform, which we hadn't done before. So I personally trained their lead engineer. We slowly brought them closer and closer to the fold, so to speak. Helped them out with legal infrastructure, helped them out with training, helped them out with back office boring stuff. And once Luna crashed, like Flu said, we kind of held each other really tight to make it through the winter, so to speak. And we're working really hard on our respective apps. And what we see Granary as, at least we, like the nerdy side of the team, is an opportunity to innovate. And our whole thing is like, we're servants to our users. I'm a servant to our workers, and together, we need to create a system that is designed to serve the people as opposed to extract value from them. So yeah, I mean, the values aligned really well, and our team, we're full of like senior engineers, and we're super excited about difficult problems. And you look at a company like Aave or Compound, and it seems like all they do nowadays is just argue in governance forums instead of doing anything cool, So we've teamed up with like a ton of big players in the industry, and we've worked really hard to push the tech forward because, you know, not only did it seem like the DeFi industry forgot about its values, but it seemed to forget about why we're all here, which is, you know, to push forward this amazing technology. Um, so yeah, you know, that's how Flu and I ended up together, and you know, how we've been pushing along with the rest of the Granary team this idea forward. And you know, it's kind of like a total waste if we're not one of the biggest and the best lending platforms, you know. So you know, we've built this massive pile of infrastructure across 7 different blockchain networks. That is the current Granary Finance. And now, yeah, we're doing like a fair launch for our governance token to give everybody governing power over the platform. And we finished up like a version 2 of the protocol that we're trying to take out to audit right now. So yeah, I mean, honestly, Granary is like, in my opinion, one of the most badass things to happen to DeFi in a while. I think, you know, it's easy to understate because we do everything kind of by the book. Because you know, when you're serving users and you're creating software to help their finances, you know, you need to do everything by the book. But as far as the ethos that drives it, I think it's like it's really exciting to me. And Flu and I laugh when we say ethos because that's the name of another one of our products, Ethos Reserve. But yeah, I hope that was a good explainer.
No, that was
Um,
awesome. And you mentioned 7 blockchains. So it looks like Phantom, Arbitrum, Binance, Avalanche, ETH. What am I missing?
Optimism, Metis
Optimism.
Chain. We're on Polygon with Grain.sale, but we're waiting for their ZK EVM layer 2 to go forward with a full deployment.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's good to see that you guys are pushing forward, you know, a community driven project. I'm gonna see throw it over to Dal. Dal, and you're also deep into the DeFi space. What any questions or thoughts so far?
Lots of questions, but I'll probably skip a few because we'll take 3 hours to go through them. But first, yeah, I want to say like you guys are really cool. In my opinion, right, you guys are kind of like the cool kids on the DeFi side of crypto, where you're building new things, innovative. You kind of bring, in my opinion, right, when people talk about Phantom, they usually talk about Byte Mason, and then it's been interesting to see how Granary is looking at lending and kind of spinning, you know, the I guess the incentives. I'd love for you to touch on how you guys are creating a difference in terms of incentives for lenders and borrowers compared to something like Avid and Compound.
Yeah, sure. Also, Hoem is up on stage, and Hoem, I retweeted your airdrop thing the other day. That was a fucking legendary thread, man. That was so cool.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Anyway, Dow Chemist, I would say that incentives, the thing that a lot of places get wrong, in our opinion, is that they do 50-50 to lenders and borrowers. Thing is, lenders don't really create revenue. Borrowers are the ones that are creating revenue. Lenders are well compensated if a lot of borrowers are there, right? And so the real trick is to compensate the borrowers for their risk that they're taking on. So rather than a 50-50 lender borrower split for the incentives, what we're looking to do is do 80% to the borrowers and then 20% to the lenders. And I've had people be like, "Oh, well, why would I lend then?" And I'm like, "Because the rates are going to be really high. That's why you would lend. That's why you always lend, right?" And so that's really our thing on incentives.
I thought I was the math guy, Flu. What the heck?
I've listened to
I
you
think.
a lot.
I mean, honestly, I think what's cool about Granary and the model we've built around Granary is like we always see in these token economies, there's the liquidity provider, which is the lender in this case. There's the user, which is the borrower in this case. In other cases, it would be like a trader or something like that. And then there's the governor, who, you know, at first glance, okay, that's just a guy who, you know, votes on development roadmap or whatever. But in reality, that governor is funding all the incentives on the platform. And oftentimes, like, you look at, you know, Aave, for example, you know, I'm going to bring them up. We love Aave. They're like the top dog. They're massive innovators. You know, it's just they haven't dropped anything in a while. And it's like, you know, if you remember, like when Cardi hadn't dropped a mixtape in forever and everybody was like, what the heck, and started to hate him. That's kind of like, you know, how people are starting to think about Aave a little. Maybe their stablecoin will change that, but I'll stop on my tangent. You know, in 2021, they spent about $360 million on token incentives. So those were incentives that were given away to liquidity providers. And of that, they only made $30 million in revenue. And most of that they just pocketed. So, you know, if you look at Aave from the perspective of an LP, you're like, wow, great. You know, you're a liquidity provider. They treated you well. They gave you all that money, and you didn't really have to do anything for them. You know, on the user end, you're like, okay, great. They gave me all this money. You didn't really have to do anything for them. And then you look at, you know, the governors, who are probably some of the most engaged users on their platform, and it's like, you know, they were diluted to nothing, and their governance power was handed out to people who didn't really care. So what we do is, you know, we take this incentive paradigm that Flu has talked about, you know, with the 80-20, and then, you know, we use all of the yield and all of the interest revenue generated by the platform, and we buy back the grain tokens so as to prevent dilution. And as we progress, as we build on Granary, you know, we will unlock powers once our audit of V2 is over to not only lend to users, which, you know, if you have $1 billion, you can only expect maybe $200 million worth of demand on your platform. We unlock the power to lend to other protocols where there's theoretically infinite demand. So instead of funds sitting totally idle, we can say, hey, Aave, you know, you're paying interest to users for this asset. We're going to lend it to you, and then we're going to take that revenue, that yield generated from you paying us, and we're going to use it to buy back grain. And then that grain is the grain that's distributed to users for incentives. And, you know, what we create in this way is a system that's more sustainable, that can actually last, and that, you know, these three parties, the lender, the borrower, and the token governor, are friends, and they're aligned, and it's not like an antagonistic relationship because, you know, I mean, of course, the governor always wants more borrowers, more lenders, etc. But it's kind of like, you know, they want ones that aren't going to dilute them, and we've created a system where they don't have to dilute them, and even if they want to farm and dump or do whatever you know, farmers do, you know, it's still a positive scenario, because, you know, you're getting the trading volume, and it's sustainable anyway because all of these incentives are being bought back. So, you know, we think we've created like a very simple, elegant system, and it's really a testament to our engineers. It's like, we see what works in the real world. We figure out how can we actually make it better. You know, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to make the world's best wheel, you know. So we see what works in the real world, and then we replicate it in smart contracts. So we're injecting all this security, we're injecting all this automation, we're injecting all of this kind of permissionlessness, trustlessness, etc. into it, which makes it an order of magnitude more powerful as a software solution. And then we put it out into the world, and now there's like a really fabulous public good that's self-sustaining, that people can rely on, that people can depend on. And our goal is just to keep making it more accessible, easier to use, more efficient. And to us, we see that as like, the easiest roadmap ever. Like, let's just replace all the financial infrastructure with public goods that have the power in their own right to penetrate markets and to give people what they need from a financial primitive. Um,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, Let me see here. Sorry, I was just looking up something really quick. But yeah, so thanks for that awesome explanation. I really appreciate that. And Flu, I mean, obviously you've also been involved with gaming. Is that why you guys decided to also like integrate the kind of gaming aspect into it? You want to speak a little bit about that and what you're looking to do with the gaming part of it? Gamified aspect, maybe that's the better term.
Yeah, so the important thing about that is that like we're not gonna do it, right? And that's and for one thing, just because
Wait,
like
what do you mean by that?
we're not gonna do it ourselves, right? We're going to encourage others to do it, and in fact, there's already something that's going to be launching like right after our token sale ends, or our token event ends. Um, and that's like we didn't pay anything for it. We didn't allocate any resources to it. It's just they decided to do it because they were like, oh, we really like the branding and so on and so forth. But to think of it in terms of like responsible like gamification, responsible incentivization of like people playing in these digital worlds, like what if you could, instead of picking up like a bag of cash in a game, like you've got like Dope Wars or whatever. Dope Wars, I love those people. Actually, the one of my giant bag holders in Son is the creator of Dope Wars, right? And they were talking to me about it, and they're like, we can't do anything that involves creation of like these real value assets. We have to stick to the securities that we have created, and I think they actually have theirs registered as securities like overseas and stuff. And so like we have to stick to these things that we've created. I'm like, well, you don't have to create them. What if you just had NFTs that represented the value, and then you picked up those NFTs in game and they were worth like positions in Granary. And so you didn't create them. You just created a vehicle for characters in your game, players in your game to be able to utilize them, right? And that kind of avoids that whole thing. And that's been like a major thing of like we're really like an infrastructure layer for interest bearing assets. And encouraging people to build on that, encouraging people to utilize that as a useful thing. I think that's actually where we're coming in. And the other side of it, as far as like gaming and gamification, is that our UI and our UX, that's really where the gamification comes in. All that UI and UX is doing is leading the user and educating the user down a certain path in order to like incentivize a certain behavior. In our case, that's like saving rather than spending, and that's the end goal, and that's like the responsible thing, and that's what we should be encouraging all of our children to do. That's what we should be encouraging ourselves to do, and so that we can like take control of our financial futures and give ourselves more opportunities, because that's all that money really is access to opportunity.
Great points. Dow, go ahead.
Yeah, what I really like about the way you guys describing the project is it seems like you're taking uh, you're aware of all the different actors in the protocols. You mentioned the governors, the lenders, the borrowers, and you're aligning those incentives so that there's a sustainable ecosystem for lending. And I guess also like what you guys are saying as well is that a lot of other lending platforms have incentives, but they're not sustainable. Mostly it's token inflation, and at some point they're probably going to run out, or eventually they get to a situation where the incentives for lenders or borrowers are going to be so small or insignificant that it won't be worth for them doing so. But so what's interesting, the question I have for you guys is how does Granary fit into the Byte Mason Oath ecosystem? How do you align those incentives?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So kind of a big question that I've been asked relatively frequently is, what the heck is Granary, and how does it fit into what you're already doing? And I guess, like, when we first created Oath, it was like, okay, we're going to make Reaper Farm, and we're going to build software alongside Reaper Farm and enhance it. And since then we've grown a lot as a team, and as part of that growth, we've taken on new clients. Granary was probably the first big one, and then there are several that I can't mention because of NDAs. But we see all these problems in the space, and working on Granary was one of our first chances to solve them. So we created a team dedicated to Granary. And the Grain Foundation and the Oath Foundation are kind of two separate entities, but through the Oath Foundation and through the Oath ecosystem products, we saw this awesome opportunity wherein, hey, if we could put in a bunch of work on other DeFi protocols and ensure that they were really successful and could scale, then we would have kind of like first-class citizenship as collaborators and partners. And a big problem we saw when we were working on Reaper Farm is, like, there aren't a lot of trustworthy sources of yield. There aren't a lot of scalable sources of yield. And honestly, like, there aren't a lot of really super positive actors, especially in kind of the grassroots DeFi space, where it's like all, self-funded or revenue funded or community funded. So we were like, okay, let's take these guys at Granary who are saying all these great things about fair finance and about bringing power to the people, which is what we're already all about. Let's take what they're doing and let's level it up, and let's inject all of our experience and all of our skill sets into it. Let's train their team, let's train their developers, and try to make the best lending platform in the world. And now, what we get as the Oath ecosystem is we kind of get, it's like if your best friend, came up with you and, you were really successful in business, and then your best friend, like, let's say you make sunglasses, you've got like, you're a killer sunglasses designer. Your best friend is over there making like t-shirts. He's like, super popular t-shirt designer or what have you. The opportunity for collaboration there, even though you might have two different markets, is massive. And suddenly you kind of get this exponential power where you can work together to create products that have never been seen before, or serve products to users who would never, ever even look at like a Reaper Farm or an Ethos Reserve. And that was the coolest thing about Granary is, like, we've spent this past year planning, like, hey, we have all of these tools, we have all of these building blocks. How can we assemble them into like a sustainable superpower? And so now, let's say, for example, our Ethos Reserve app, which is a stablecoin application, it needs Bitcoin yield, it needs ETH yield in order to achieve sustainability. And then we have Granary on the bottom end, and we can say, hey, Granary team, we need this yield. You have a built-in customer in us, make it happen. And then, they have access to all of these customers who are focused on lending or focused on, yield products. We plug in with Reaper, they plug into their audience, and suddenly we've assembled, through incentives and through marketing of this separate company that's heavily collaborating with us, a really sustainable kind of big market for Bitcoin yield. And we can do that across really any product, and Granary can benefit from our products as well, wherein we're driving a lot of efficient capital their way through Reaper and through Ethos, and through digit.xyz, which is another one of our products. So yeah, I mean, the benefit is massive, especially when you're looking in long time frames, which we always do. And having access to a really serious team and having kind of first party access, having them on speed dial, collaborating so closely with them just means like imagine if your best friend founded Aave, or imagine if your best friend was Aave. And it just like works so freaking well. And honestly, the fact that we could achieve this level of success with Granary, it just makes me so bullish on the whole ecosystem. But go ahead, Dow Chemist.
Yeah, last question. I know I have like 20s, but I'll finish on this one. So one of the issues that I've seen in lending platform is there's a lot of demands for a specific asset, right? Stable coins or ETH or like the coin of the given chain that you're on, right?
Yeah.
But for maybe like the long tail assets, it's a lot harder and less safer as well to provide liquidity for lending. Are you guys tackling that issue as well, like providing lending for smaller long tail assets?
So that's something we've considered. I think really the problem is the demand is very low. And I mean, I think like you and I, Dow Chemist, like the demand for us is high. We're like, dang, we want to create all these crazy positions. But, when you look at how many holders does this asset have, how many users are actively trading this asset, what's the velocity, quote unquote, of this asset, it's actually quite low. And we've taken like a really boring approach with Granary where it's like, unless there's a very specific reason, like for example, an oath ecosystem product has a need for it and can be a built-in like multi-million-dollar customer. Unless there's an explicit need, we go after the highest revenue generating markets. So for example, like ETH is a fabulous one because staked ETH looping or staked ETH farming creates billions of dollars of built-in demand. So we worked with Lido DAO on Optimism to create a really nice staked ETH leverage environment, and now people can get over 100% yield on their ETH. And the thing is, when you're plugging into assets that already have demand, even without incentives, you're just really, really powering up your market. And I think as a group that seeks to align these incentives and empower token governors, always focusing on the highest addressable market or the biggest addressable market is pretty crucial because we want to make sure that with the incentives that we're spending, there's enough revenue being generated on the back end for those buybacks and to achieve that sustainability. So the answer is Flu wants to make like the crazy long tail exotic asset markets, but that's kind of like a day two thing. After we're the biggest lending protocol in the world, we can focus on that.
Great questions and great points. We do have 15, 20 more minutes. So if anybody has any questions and you want to start queuing up, feel free to hit request. So Flu, maybe I'll throw this one to you. So where are you guys in the project, or what's coming up? Like what do you want to tell us about Granary that's happening now or in the next few weeks?
Well, so what I would say about that is that we're starting to integrate our token, and it's not going to be super fast because we don't really do anything super fast. We do things measured and slowly and in stages. And so what's going to happen next is we're going to turn on our token, right? But we're going to turn on our token over time, right? So first there's going to be a token. Then there's going to be a token that simply repurchases itself whenever we have something happen. Then we're going to have a token that does all the things that we say that it'll do, or most of the things that we say it'll do in the paper for it. And then we have a token that'll do all of the things it says we're going to do. And then we're going to have Granary V2, and we're going to have the interface that looks completely different than Aave, and the certain things are going to work differently than Aave. Then we're going to have more, then so on and so forth. So it's a long roadmap, and I would recommend reading the Medium articles. If you go into our Discord, there's a pinned message. Also, our Discord is insane because all of our mods work for free, and they're mostly from other DeFi protocols that actually pay them. And so they come in and they're very sarcastic, but they do it, and they work as mods in here because they love it. They just like messing around and being the late night DJ crew. And
I think it's called masochism, Flu.
yeah, no, that's what they are. Well, like some of our mods are people like Fiery Dev, and you know, like others that are like very well established in their own right, and then they come over here to the Granary server, and they're just like, I'm a troll user today, and that's what I'm gonna do. But
Yeah, I mean, if it's community members and it's actual users, moderating everything, and people who've been in the industry for a long time, then I feel like you get a little bit more of an authentic experience. Maybe we probably need to give those guys some grain, but
yeah,
I digress. We'll have that conversation later.
yeah, probably
Um,
probably need to pay them so that they actually answer questions all the time.
but yeah, I mean, like flu, you just kind of described like our next 3 to 6 months. I would say like beyond that, we're just looking to improve accessibility of DeFi, and I think in light of like the banks failing, the USDC depeg, all of this stuff, like our goal is just to make Granary as accessible as possible. Things like, hey, if you're a company, we'll set up tools for you to run payroll through Granary. Like if you're a protocol and maybe even eventually breaking out off chain, or if you're a user, hey, like keep your coins in these interest bearing positions. Maybe we'll have something like a debit card or similar where you don't have to move your assets to actually realize them, and you don't need to sit down at your computer, break out your ledger, cry for an hour, and then off ramp 20% of your money because you don't want to do it again in a few weeks. Just finding ways to actually integrate Granary and this infrastructure into people's lives directly. And really, like it's a big engineering problem because it's like we're building bridges into the real world and into like, hey, sure, you can't buy a Subway sandwich with Bitcoin yet. Just kidding, you actually can. But you can't use Shiba dog coin or whatever. So we need to create ways to kind of make that a reality, and there are a lot of partners that want to help us with that. So yeah, we just want to be efficient, be sustainable, and be accessible, and I think that's like the story. And Nico, if you had a
Yeah, Nico,
question.
what's up? Welcome, Nico.
Hi guys, good morning. All right, yeah, I have a ton of questions.
Well,
Yeah,
you can only get like one or two.
I know.
Don't let Johnny hear me saying that because he'll get mad.
uh, so look, everything you're saying is great, but how is this going to be acceptable here, like in the United States, the way you're talking about? So, like, there's a lot of accounting involved with all of this as well. I get it. You guys are a protocol and you're going to keep track of all of this, but the way the tax purposes work for a business to do these types of transactions, there's like all these tax events and everything. And I get it. It's not going to be that hard
I
to
do
come up.
not think we should be asking them about their tax information on the space. Do you have a
Oh, no,
different
it's not
question,
theirs.
Nico, about
It's
the
not
protocol
theirs.
itself?
But if you use their protocol and you're doing these transactions, how does this affect you? That's what I'm asking.
I think that's a question for a tax accountant.
Yeah, I mean it's the same as, anything, it's like you get interest at a bank, albeit like 0.3%,
Oh no, no,
but
no, that's
your
not what
tax
I was.
professional.
That's not what I was. Yeah, all right. That's it. Was the
Yeah,
whole
if you
setup?
use a debit card, it would count as a conversion, if that's what you mean.
No, no. I'm talking about your actual setup. Like you're creating the protocol and
Yeah,
everything. So
he
you're gonna
was
keep
too.
track.
All right,
Yeah.
guys, let's get back
Okay.
on track. Nico, do you have a
Okay.
non-tax related question? There are no tax professionals
No,
here.
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
It's actually a technical in a way. So you're gonna keep track of literally everything for everybody. You're creating the entire. So let's just say you gave the example of the person making the T-shirts and the other ones making the sunglasses, I believe. Okay. Um, you're literally creating all of the back end. Like we're talking about, fine, forget about the tax. We're talking about the accounting for somebody personally, like within all of that.
But what is it? I'm sorry, Nico, but we got to keep it back on track. We're talking about a DeFi protocol. I don't know
No,
why we're getting
it's
involved
a
in.
It's all right. I'll answer this real quick. It's like if your friend who makes sunglasses or your friend who makes T-shirts, if you buy a T-shirt from them, or if you sell a T-shirt that you had bought from your friend, that's not your friend's responsibility to like do your tax, like
No, no, no.
to
It's
look
not
at
the
your
tax.
tax.
All right,
It's not.
guys, we're
Yeah.
gonna move it on.
I
Do
think
you
I
have
think
any
yeah.
other non-tax related question? If not, we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nico, you live in New York, man. You're doomed. Just move out of New York.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
Nico, refine the question and then DM it to me, and I can help answer.
Yeah, definitely don't want to go into tax advice. I haven't done my taxes. Do not stress me out yet. I don't even want to hear that
Okay.
word yet.
I
Crunch.
I have to do mine at the beginning of the year, otherwise I like get anxiety.
No, but yeah, at the end of the day, like check with your tax accountant. Just because you're using DeFi, again, check with your tax accountant. Everything's still just because you're using crypto or DeFi doesn't mean you don't have to do your taxes. And I think
Wait,
with that,
what?
we're gonna move on.
Yeah, our tax professional is like an enrolled agent, which our compliance officer says is like if a tax professional got the Elden Ring. So a former IRS guy helps us out. So I can maybe forward you to him, Nico, but I probably shouldn't answer your questions.
What's up, home?
Yeah, hey guys. I just wanted to like leave a like a remark on the Bike Masons. As being like a big fan all the way from Phantom early days and using Reaper. So we're looking at DeFi people building a DeFi infrastructure for DeFi people, like a whole self-sufficient ecosystem being built out in real time. So I just wanted to say I'm super horny for grain, so it's exciting.
Thank you.
Right.
Homie is the homie. That's funny.
Beavis, I really think that we need to have one of our, like, because I know we've talked about like what NFT bullshit do we want to do, right? But I think that one of the NFT bullshit things that we do is like a grain waifu collection that's like AI generated. I think that's the goal. That's one of the
I
goals.
think that would be too powerful. I think, and why not like a husbando collection?
Hey,
Uh,
you can't leak the next collection, bro.
no, I'm sorry.
Husband
Like
down.
No.
husband down. Oh no, that's actually really good.
Oh Lord, let's not go back down that rabbit hole again with
First it was taxes, then it was husband douse.
no, with that NFT project, remember, with the housemaids or whatever they were called.
Oh God, yeah, that was bad. That was
That
really
Yeah,
was
Flu
bad.
and I
tragic.
have history in the space. Like I appreciate you coming. I've learned a lot from you in my time being in crypto and in blockchain. So it's always a pleasure, chatting with you and having you here. But Flu, I mean, I know before we wrap it up, I know you're big on just the whole aspect of crypto and decentralized finance. What are your thoughts about the current revelations? We got Elizabeth Warren saying she's starting an Crypto Army, what are your thoughts?
Hold on, I have a tweet. I'm gonna pin it because it's very, very relevant. It's right there, and so everyone can look at my stance right above. I'm anti crypto. So that's
Wow,
and
that's amazing.
I'm building a team. Everybody here, anybody here who wants to be on the anti crypto team, the post is above. That's it. That's it. That's my stance on the Elizabeth Warren
We
thing.
still don't see it. Do you want to just give a quick say? Because it takes a bit to come up.
No, it literally just says I'm anti crypto. By the way, that's the tweet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wanna give a shout out to NK in the audience. I saw her like tweet something about like maybe signing up for the Elizabeth Warren anti crypto and infiltrating as a double. It's going to be a double swipe. Great idea. Definitely
that's a
think you should do
yeah,
it.
fabulous.
I think
It's
we should
weird
all
because
do
like
that.
20%, over 20% of Americans like use crypto or hold crypto assets. And probably like there's another 5% that are lying on their tax returns. So it's like who came up with like I've never seen the government. Well, I mean, I've never seen in my lifetime. I know it happens around the world, but like a government so divorced from what the people actually want. Um, it's like really, really depressing. It's like a virtue. It's like making your entire career one big virtue signal that like makes no sense. I don't know who she's trying to impress, to be honest, but it's kind
It's
of
even
sad.
more weird is that she used to be not that long ago like screaming at CEOs of commercial banks like Wells Fargo, humiliating them, and now she's almost like going completely 180 degrees and
Paid by
doing their work for them, going after crypto, which is obviously going after their business. So
yeah.
it's a weird thing.
So they're her biggest contributors, probably, is the banks. Like
Yeah,
just
that's what I'm saying.
because,
Check
just
finally cleared, Nico.
I'm
The check,
sorry.
the check finally cleared, Nico.
Yeah, the big $40 million Goldman Sachs check. It took it. She was extorting them by going after them publicly, just waiting for that big check to hit. I could probably okay. This is all a parody account. Actually, I'm gonna stop saying what I'm saying, but it does seem a little ridiculous. And I don't think like you know, I don't think anti-crypto stance like really aligns with the values she pretends to have. So it's like Operation Choke Point, where like all the politicians just tried to debank all the industries they didn't like, or even like not even that they didn't like, but didn't have a vested interest in, and now our careers aren't really under threat because we're a nonprofit, we're international, we have customers all over the world, but it's like our industry's ability to thrive is under threat, which is like I don't go around saying I'm the anti-politician league or whatever. It's like just maybe stay in your lane and maybe like write a paper, maybe talk about how you don't like crypto. You don't need to make like a league. Like what the heck? That's so mean.
It's like Dumbledore's army, but for assholes. That's really what the Elizabeth Warren thing is.
Like
I
I
can't
feel like
really.
we're pretty nice, we don't need a league to be formed against us.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Tom.
and well, I just think it's hard to take somebody serious like her when I listened to her on one of her rants, like talking about Western Union and basically glorifying Western Union of all things. I'm like, Western
What the
Union?
heck?
Like, do you have any idea? Like, just stop. Like, it just, all the scams and everything that have gone on with that, I'm like, I don't see anybody can take her seriously.
Yeah, it's madness.
It is madness. And we are coming up at the top of the hour. I do want to be respectful of your time, Fu. Anything you want to leave us with before we wrap up
I was
this
gonna
part
open
of
it
the
to a
show?
question. I was gonna open it to a question from Sean since they're new to the stage.
Hey, Sean, what's up? Sean may just be farming.
Yeah, Sean is no one follow for everyone follow Sean. That's what they want. That's what they want. That's what they need. It's okay.
Well, okay, if that's what you're using for your final words,
That's it.
Flu, I'd like to just tell everybody, go home and tell your family that you love them, fight for what you believe in, and have a lovely day. And we're going to be here either way. If you're ever looking for a DeFi solution, Granary Finance, follow our Twitter. We're
Green dot
kind of
sale.
funny
Green dot sale.
sometimes.
You guys are hilarious. Yeah. How do you find that balance between, and I mean, we're seeing it with mainstream brands too, right? The balance between shit posting and like being serious. So I think you guys are hilarious.
Yeah, it's a good dynamic. It's hard to strike well, but it's usually Flu saying something outrageous and then us all being shocked, and then him convincing us it's funny, and then usually that has a 70% success rate. So
They
no,
made
I
me
think we all have a sense of humor.
take down one of my posts the other day. I was so sad.
You
What
crossed
did
the
you say?
line, didn't you?
I don't even remember. They were like there was some asshole that was fucking posting shit, and I was like,
Oh yeah,
I went
yeah, we get trolled sometimes, and it's sad, but we
it's
have a
the thing though. Like
we
I'm
don't
really
negotiate
good.
with trolls. That's our stance.
I'm really good at taking the trolls down though, and they know that they can't fuck with me because I'm already a troll. Like you can't out troll another troll. It's not. Yeah. Anyway, it's fine. We're good. We're good. Anyway, grain.sale. If you feel like making a financial decision that we have not endorsed, that's what I'd leave you with. Thanks.
Yep, because we are not financial advisors or tax advisors or any type of advisors. But
Yeah.
we appreciate you guys for coming by. And you're always welcome back. If you want to come back in a few months, my DMs are always open.